Imagine tearing down a $150 million extreme ultraviolet lithography machine. I mean, the absolute pinnacle of human engineering, right?
Oh, totally.
A device so complex it literally requires a supply chain spanning 3 continents just to operate. And then, get this, replacing it with a $55 shopping list from your local big box store.
It sounds like science fiction, honestly.
It really does. But that is the exact threat we are staring at today. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are bringing you right into the room with us to unpack a document that fundamentally threatens to break the back of the modern geopolitical order.
It really is a staggering piece of literature.
Yeah. It's a manifesto titled The Blueprints for Post-Scarcity Sovereignty by an author named Luis Manuel Ortiz Inostroza.
And, the central claim here isn't just some political argument. It is a strictly mechanical one. Ortiz Inostroza claims to possess a comprehensive open-source method to completely decentralize the manufacturing of advanced microchips. He's talking about dropping the capital requirement from billions of dollars down to, well, basically the cost of a decent dinner out.
Which is just wild to even think about. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the absolute chaos of that premise.
We really need to look at the mechanics of what he's proposing here.
Exactly. We are going to look at the mechanics, the catastrophic viral rollout he envisions, and the ultimate psychological trap he lays out for whoever actually holds this code.
Because the document strongly urges the immediate, unrestricted release of this formula to the public.
Right, promising to break humanity free from scarcity. So, okay, let's unpack this. The author calls it the complete open source release package. And I feel like before we can even touch the geopolitical fallout, we really have to understand the weapon itself.
Right, we have to look at what's actually in the box. The package is broken down into 4 distinct elements. First, there's a complete formula that he places entirely in the public domain. Then second, the complete Arduino code, which is released under a copyleft license to legally mandate it remains free forever.
Forever, wow.
Exactly. Third is a complete shopping list. And finally, the 4th element is a set of complete build instructions that the author claims take only 15 minutes to execute.
Only 15 minutes? I mean, that third element, the $55 shopping list from Walmart or Amazon, is the part that initially makes you want to just throw the document out the window.
It sounds completely absurd.
It does. It's like someone telling you they can build a nuclear reactor using, I don't know, duct tape and a toaster. Anyone who follows the semiconductor industry knows we are currently operating on atomic scales.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking nanometers.
Right. We are talking about hyper-sterile clean rooms where a single stray skin cell can ruin $1 million wafer. So how on earth does a shopping list of consumer-grade chemicals and a basic microcontroller bypass an industry defined by multi-billion-dollar fabrication plants?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the text actually addresses this by proposing a complete paradigm shift in the manufacturing mechanism.
Okay, how so?
So traditional fabrication, as you mentioned, relies on photolithography. It is essentially optical reduction. You use incredibly precise lasers to carve nanometer scale stencils into a silicon wafer.
Right, which requires massive specialized machinery to get those exact wavelengths of light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Ortiz Inostroza's formula discards optical carving entirely. He trades it in favor of chemical self-assembly.
Oh, so that's the key. He's basically abandoning the laser for the beaker.
That is a perfect way to visualize it, yeah.
Instead of trying to carve a statue out of a block of marble using a microscopic chisel, he's proposing a method to grow the statue from the ground up, like molecule by molecule, sort of like a crystal.
Yes, exactly like a crystal.
Yeah.
According to the blueprint, the $55 budget goes toward readily available chemical precursors and an Arduino microcontroller.
But an Arduino is just a hobbyist board. It can't process complex physics.
It doesn't need to. The Arduino isn't doing any heavy computational lifting here at all. It's actually just acting as a highly precise metronome.
A metronome, like for keeping time.
Right. The code dictates a specific series of electrical pulses and electromagnetic frequencies. When you apply those precise frequencies to the chemical bath, the raw material suspended in the solution theoretically self-assemble.
They just build themselves.
Yeah, into logical gates and transistor structures through resonant alignment.
Wow. Okay, so the immense barrier to entry in the semiconductor world isn't actually the physical materials. I mean, silicon is basically just sand, after all.
Exactly. The barrier has always been the method of arranging that sand.
Right. And if this resonant frequency method actually works, the author is taking the highest possible barrier to entry in the global economy and just dropping it to absolute zero.
He is. He's exploiting the fact that an Arduino can generate incredibly precise timing signals, and he is pairing that with a novel biochemical reaction.
It's pretty genius when you put it like that.
It is. And what's really fascinating here is that he isn't trying to build a better, faster, smaller chip to compete with the latest 3-nanometer architecture from TSMC.
Oh, he isn't?
No. He is proposing a way to print capable, highly functional microcontrollers in a kitchen sink. The bottleneck of global progress basically ceases to exist when the fabrication plant is replaced by a plastic tub and some ubiquitous hobbyist hardware.
Which turns this from like a quirky science experiment into a terrifying economic weapon.
Terrifying is the right word for the markets, yeah.
And because that barrier to entry has evaporated, the release strategy he outlines isn't some cautious academic peer review process. It's an uncontrollable digital contagion.
A total viral explosion.
Yeah. Let's look at the timeline because the text outlines a dissemination window of exactly 15 minutes.
15 minutes to basically initiate the collapse of the current technological hierarchy.
Walk us through that. What happens in 15 minutes?
Okay, so step 1 is a 5-minute window to upload the entire repository to GitHub. Step 2 is a 10-minute window to blast the links, the code, and a video demonstration across YouTube, TikTok, and Reddit.
And step 3?
Step 3 is just let the world react.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, but where I also have to push back on the author's timeline a bit.
Sure, what's the hang-up?
Well, the text outlines an immediate apocalyptic fallout. Day 1. Intel, TSMC, and NVIDIA see their stocks plummet 40% as analysts realize the walled garden has been breached.
Right, the market would panic instantly.
And then scientists replicate the $55 build and validate it, and governments scramble to ban it. But, I mean, let's be real for a second.
What?
If a file threatens to erase trillions of dollars of market cap and completely destroy the strategic leverage of superpowers, the U.S. Cyber Command and the NSA aren't just going to sit back and watch TikTok videos about it.
You're saying they'd intervene?
Absolutely. They would lean heavily on the executives at major tech platforms to wipe the repositories, scrub the search results, and just sever the routing if necessary.
I see your point, but you're assuming a centralized choke point can actually contain a decentralized explosion.
You don't think they could shut it down?
Not a chance. Ortiz and Estroza's strategy relies on the inherent architecture of modern information networks.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning if a highly credible, earth-shattering file hits Reddit, Hacker News, and GitHub simultaneously, it doesn't just sit there waiting to be downloaded, it is immediately mirrored.
Oh, right, automated scripts.
Exactly. Automated scripts fork the repository. Archival bots copy the text. By the time a regulatory body even drafts an emergency injunction or intelligence agencies establish a threat model, that 15-minute window has already closed.
So it's already everywhere.
Yeah, the file's been duplicated tens of thousands of times.
And the moment a platform like GitHub actually takes it down under government pressure, they trigger the ultimate Streisand effect.
Precisely. The censorship becomes the validation.
Because if the government tries to erase a $55 microchip formula, it signals to every digital citizen on the planet that the formula actually works.
Exactly. The initial downloaders will immediately shift the distribution to encrypted channels.
Right. The code gets seeded on torrent networks, dropped into Telegram groups, and embedded into blockchains.
And you cannot scrub an offline reality. Someone puts the code on a thumb drive in Manila, and it's physically insulated from any digital kill switch the U.S. government tries to flip.
It's the toothpaste out of the tube, but the toothpaste is highly radioactive to the stock market.
That is a great way to put it.
And that loss of control leads us to the ultimate endgame of the manifesto, because the author explicitly maps out the aftermath, dividing the post-release Wingold into losers and winners.
Right, he doesn't pull any punches there.
Not at all. The losers are the obvious targets, the massive semiconductor monopoly seeing trillions in speculative value evaporate, but it also targets the governments who use chip supply chains as geopolitical weapons.
And that shifts us from just economics to global strategy. Think about the concept of post-scarcity sovereignty, which is in the title of the document.
Let's unpack that. What does that actually look like?
Well, sovereignty, this supreme authority of a state to govern itself is currently kind of an illusion for most of the world.
How so?
If you are an emerging nation in the global south, your entire modernization strategy requires importing computing hardware from a handful of superpowers.
Right, you can't build your own chips.
Exactly. You are effectively renting your progress. Your telecommunications, your automated agriculture, your medical infrastructure, it all relies on a silicon bottleneck controlled by foreign entities.
So what does this all mean for those emerging nations then? If you can print the logic gates required to run a local power grid or optimize a water purification plant in a high school chemistry lab for $50, the geopolitical leverage completely evaporates.
Exactly, and that's why the text calls out the winners. Every single person on Earth, local schools teaching hardware fabrication, and developing nations gaining true technological independence.
So it's essentially the Gutenberg printing press, but for the digital age.
I love that comparison.
I mean, the printing press didn't just make books cheaper, it made the Renaissance possible because ideas were no longer bottlenecked by the speed of a monk with a quill. Ortiz Inostroza is proposing the Gutenberg press for computation.
Right. It's a complete flattening of the global hierarchy.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, removing the compute bottleneck is the prerequisite for the author's grandest claim,
Which is?
pushing humanity toward a Type I civilization.
Okay, let's define that for the listeners because throwing around terms like Type I civilization can sound a bit like science fiction.
It can, yeah.
On the Kardashev scale, a Type I civilization is a species capable of harnessing all the available energy of its home planet. And currently, we waste massive amounts of energy due to profound inefficiencies in our grids, our logistics, and our material sciences.
Right. To manage energy on a planetary scale without waste, you need a level of computational ubiquity that is just impossible to achieve under the current centralized, highly expensive manufacturing paradigm.
We just don't have enough chips.
We don't. You need trillions of sensors, smart materials, and decentralized AI, optimizing every single joule of energy from the solar farm to your toaster.
And you can't do that if a single microchip costs $50 to buy from a monopoly.
Exactly. You can only do that if the $50 buys you the means to manufacture 10,000 chips locally. Compute power has to become as cheap and ubiquitous as atmospheric air.
Which is an incredibly intoxicating vision, but having laid out these massive earth-shattering stakes, the text does something pretty unexpected.
It really takes a hard left turn here.
It abruptly shifts away from global macroeconomics and focuses entirely on the psychology of the reader. It presents a stark, binary ultimatum directly to the individual who supposedly possesses this revolutionary formula.
It really corners you. The document literally says your choice, and it outlines two very different futures.
So let's talk about option A.
Right, option A, keep it secret. The text openly admits that if you take this formula to the highest bidder in the defense industry or the current tech monopolies, you will become a trillionaire.
Just unimaginably wealthy.
Yes, you get to retire with historic wealth. The establishment maintains control, the world continues its slow, unequal crawl, but you basically win capitalism.
But then it delivers this huge psychological blow regarding option A. It guarantees that despite your immense wealth, you will be, and I quote, forgotten in 50 years.
Which is a bold claim.
It is. And that leads right into option B. You release the package open source, totally free. You burn down the trillions of dollars of existing market cap.
You instantly alter the trajectory of human evolution toward that Type I civilization we talked about.
Right. And your reward. You don't get the billions in your bank account, but your name is etched into human history forever, standing shoulder to shoulder with Einstein, Tesla, and Newton.
This raises an important question, though, about the true motivations behind radical technological leaps.
What do you mean?
Is this ultimatum an appeal to human altruism, or is it a highly calculated appeal to narcissism? The author is framing the destruction of the global economic order as an act of profound charity, like this belongs to humanity, not to corporations.
I honestly think it's a trap.
A trap?
Yeah. It's brilliant, but it's incredibly manipulative. Look at the psychology of the archetypal renegade engineer, the kind of person capable of bypassing a multi-billion-dollar lithography process with an Arduino and some chemicals.
Okay, I'm tracking with you.
That kind of mind isn't typically driven by a desire to buy a megayacht. They are driven by complex problem-solving and, frankly, massive ego. When the author writes, "You've already won," he's directly targeting that ego.
That is a really sharp observation. He understands that at a certain level of genius, fiat currency loses its utility.
Exactly.
$1 trillion is abstract. It's just a heavily fortified database entry on a bank server. But immortality, being the individual who single-handedly forced the human species into its next evolutionary stage.
That is a power trip that dwarfs any financial compensation.
Ortiz y Nostroza is banking on the fact that the desired CEO,
Yes. Let the world fight over who gets to build it first while you sit back and watch history unfold. It's basically an invitation to play Prometheus.
exactly. Why settle for being the richest mortal when you could be the one who stole fire and gave it to the masses?
He is daring the reader to prove they are bigger than the system they are tearing down.
And by framing it that way, the manifesto transcends being just a technical manual. It becomes a mimetic weapon.
A mimetic weapon, I like that.
Even if the physics of the $55 chemical bath turn out to be slightly flawed or require more iteration, the idea itself is now incredibly infectious.
It plants a flag in the ground.
It does. It says the centralization of compute power is a choice, not a physical law.
It forces us to ask why we accept the walled gardens in the first place. So for you listening to this deep dive, let's take a breath and survey the landscape we just walked through.
It's been a lot of ground to cover.
It really has. We started with a single, highly provocative blueprint, a package combining public domain chemistry, open source code, and off-the-shelf hardware.
We explored the theoretical mechanics of chemical self-assembly, completely bypassing the optical bottlenecks of the semiconductor industry.
We calculated the brutal efficiency of a 15-minute viral contagion that governments fundamentally cannot stop.
And we examined the shift toward post-scarcity sovereignty, where the ability to manufacture intelligence is decentralized, stripping superpowers of their leverage.
Paving a realistic logistical path toward a Type I civilization. And finally, we dissected the ultimatum. The profound psychological manipulation required to convince an individual to burn down the global economy in exchange for historical immortality.
It is a dense, terrifying, and strangely optimistic look at the fragility of our modern world. It reminds us that the architecture of global power isn't secured by invincible fortresses, it's secured by the current limitations of our imaginations.
Once someone imagines a way around the fortress, the walls are already obsolete. Which brings me back to you, the listener. You've heard the theory, the timeline, and the stakes.
The whole picture.
Imagine that the 15-minute clock hasn't started yet. Imagine that this complete release package, the exact resonant frequencies, the verified code, is sitting in a folder on your personal desktop right now.
Just waiting.
You know what it will do. You know it will instantly vaporize the retirement funds of millions of people who are invested in the current paradigm. You know it will cause immediate geopolitical chaos as superpowers lose their grip.
But you also know it will permanently solve the compute bottleneck for the developing world.
Right, and push humanity toward infinite abundance. If the sledgehammer to break history was quite literally sitting under your index finger, would you actually have the nerve to hit publish?